Hello and welcome to Quintuple L's Two Directors Walking to a Bar with me, Flatt. I am here with Addy Hugo from Free School Lunch Theatre Company to talk about our current shows and what's happening at Camden Fringe in 2021. So I'm Joe. I'm Joe Flatt. I'm a director and a playwright. I have had the privilege of working with Quintuple L for 3 of their projects now, and currently directing their show Joffrey the Pantomime, which is going to be on at the Camden Fringe at the Lion and Unicorn Theatre from the 2nd and 3rd of August at 7 o'clock each night. Addy.
So hi, my name's Addy. I do not have as lovely a little bio for myself prepared. I'm currently directing Sisters of Charity, which is also at the Lion and Unicorn Theatre, get the name right. And we are there from the 4th to the 7th, so straight after you. Also at 7 p.m, get your tickets now.
100%, do get those tickets. You can get them at the Lion and Unicorn website, or you can get them on the Camden Fringe website. So please do make sure you get them as soon as you can. So lovely. Tell us a bit about your company, about Free School Dinners. Meals, sorry. How did you become a theatre company? I realised I also got that wrong. It's Free School Lunch, and I corrected myself and got it wrong. Yes, tell us about the company.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest that like for Free School Lunch, like I'm kind of really only an associate artist. Like it's not my company. But the 3 people of whose it is are like 3 of my really close friends, and one of which is also the writer and one of the actors for the project as well. So like that's why we're sort of like we're using the Free School Lunch umbrella. I've also seen all of the work and stuff that they've done, and sort of been the sort of unofficial person that comes into rehearsals and like gives notes and things. It's very much about sort of the official tagline on the socials is exploding form and hierarchy, but very much about sort of like working class, like theatre, queer theatre, really just kind of like discovering those people that have kind of just been a bit just sort of like shoved under the carpet, really.
Yeah, that's
in history, and just kind of being like, well, no, hang on. Like that, actually, their experience is really important and really valid, and we want to talk about that. So
yeah, it's highlighting moments in history that may have been forgotten.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way of summing it up at the moment.
Very nice, very cool, and definitely worth exploring, and some lovely, like, creatively there must be so much you can kind of work with. So in terms of the company sort of thing, you're in a very similar boat to me. So Quintuple L, they are a group of 5. Well, they've expanded now, but they originated as a group of 5 who they all went to the same university and decided to create a theatre company from this. So they've done a lot of projects over lockdown and kept me very busy, which has been a massive relief. And yeah, so as I said, this is my 3rd project with them. And hopefully I'll keep in contact with them over the next few years as well. So they really love the company and definitely worth watching out for, as yours does sound too. So lovely stuff. So lockdown, obviously, we've come out of it. But how was theatre for you during lockdown? Did you create anything? Did you not? How did you spend your time creatively during lockdown? And how did it affect your current show that you're working
on? So I don't really think I have not done very much creatively over the course of the last 18 months, because I've just not had any real desire to. Like in this sort of like monotonous way. I found myself watching a lot of like recordings. So like I watched pretty much like all of the NT lives. I watched quite a lot of the old Vic ones as well.
Is there one you could recommend? Is there one you could recommend at all?
Oh gosh, off the top of my head, my favorite thing that I watched that I hadn't seen before was Barbershop Chronicles. Like, that was just like Inuit Ellen's writing is just so fantastic, and it just sort of like, you know, for me, shining a light on a culture and like an experience that I would never have known about otherwise. And it just, the way that it like played with form and things, I just absolutely loved it. Yes, it didn't do, just kind of like absorbed a lot creatively. Having said that, Aurelia, who's the actor and the writer in the piece, she was doing a lot of like self-tapes and stuff from home, so actually like it felt like sort of every few weeks she'd ring me up and be like, could you like direct me for this thing that I'm doing, which I think is sort of like what ended up being the thing that led to me directing this. So
that's lovely. That's one thing that was really lovely during lockdown. Just although theatre, we can actually do it as such, it was very community based, like bringing people together. So even just your friend messaging you and just saying, oh, can you have a look at this and help me with this, really, really lovely, and keeps you creating, it brings people closer as well, which, you know, in a different way, instead of, oh, let's jump on Zoom and have a drink sort of thing, you know, which happened a lot during lockdown. So but yeah, lovely. As I said, Quintuple, done some projects with them. I did some writing, which is good fun, and attempted to try and put it on during lockdown. However, that show, it just didn't, because of COVID and the difference in people's lives from going from being in lockdown to then suddenly being able to go out again, and everyone's suddenly becoming busy and everyone's lives change like this. It's like, so that's currently one in the works for a future date instead. And also got the chance to compose a musical, which was a lot of fun, and that was online, but and that was really fun. But I have realized that because of lockdown, I hate Zoom. I know this is ironic, and I will never do a piece of theatre online again. Because it works for some people, it just doesn't work for me, and like it's solidified how like theatre based I am and how much I love getting into the rehearsal room.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think it was at the end of what felt like the first lockdown, sort of at some point sort of towards summer, autumn last year, that I was like, and I'm done watching recordings of theatre, because this is just it's not cutting it in the same way. It's not the experience that I wanted. And similarly, like with rehearsals, you could just about direct a monologue on Zoom, especially if you're just using like your laptop and things. But we actually tried to rehearse a scene last weekend, because I was still self-isolating at that point. And we tried for about half an hour of just trying to set things up in a different way. And in the end, it was like, I just have to sit and watch, because it just wasn't working in the way that it should have done. So.
Oh, 100%. It brings me back a memory of when doing this musical, of trying to teach songs online, but because of everyone's different internet delays, mine probably being one of the worst as well at the time, it like, I'd be like, all right, sing this back to me, and then I'd suddenly get this influx of different voices, and I'd be like, oh man. Thankfully, it actually sounded good when it all was recorded and put together. But on a Zoom call, it did not sound. It sounded completely. It sounded less than subpar, and that's what the show was called. So a subpar musical, which sets it up lovely, really. But yes, so fantastic. So during lockdown, obviously we've come out of it now. But this project, how was the process of how was the process going through lockdown? Did you do much work? How long have you been rehearsing for as well?
I think I want to say we sort of like started really, the wheels really started turning, I think, in sort of like end of April, May time. I think that's when we were sort of going through like the callbacks and things. And I think it was right when the rules had changed about us being able to like go to restaurants and things inside. We were like, oh, okay, cool. If we can go to a restaurant, we can probably all be in the same room to rehearse together.
Yeah.
So started then, and it's been mostly okay, sort of like when we've actually been in the room and sort of being aware of needing to keep our distance, but also like being able to put up a show. I'm very, very happy to be back in a rehearsal room.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, you led on lovely into the next question of the joys and excitement of being back in the rehearsal room. And so, yeah, how's it been being back there, and your style of directing, and has it changed since you were in the rehearsal room before lockdown?
I'm still sort of like really finding my feet, like as a director. So I did an MA in theatre, which is how I sort of came to know the people that do free school lunch theatre, which I had only finished at the end of 2019. Right. And then, of course, right at the beginning of 2020, this had all happened. So I don't think that it's sort of like changed that much. My style, like, I've always worked really collaboratively. I'm not particularly interested in having actors just kind of sit and let me tell them what to do. Yeah. Because and I love that, you know, whenever you come together on a project, whether there's 2 of you in a room or like 22, like everyone brings their own like dramaturgy to it. Yes, because everyone 100%. Has their own life experiences. So everyone relates to things in a completely different way. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we've been hit with various bouts of like self-isolation during the rehearsals. Yes. And so in that first round, when it was all 3 of us, we really used that time to just really like talk through the text, because there was at that point, because it was still very early on for us, wouldn't have been like, it wasn't a problem for us to not be getting up on our feet, but we just, because we were all in the same boat, just used the time to really like talk through the text, which is something that I really like to do, because I think it's important. But then when we did then finally get back in the room together, I could see how much that had paid dividends. Right. Like, because we were all kind of on the same page then. And like the way that the actors have just like picked up the text is just so wonderful and so beautiful, and it's really exciting.
That's lovely. That's really, really nice. And you're saying about the collaborative kind of thing, I fully agree with you there. My opinion is I'm just one opinion, whereas the people watching it, let's say 100, just for a random number. So yeah. I'm just one opinion, and there's 100 opinions about to be watching the show, and the cast have, in my instance, they have 7 or 8, opinions going on as well. So it's just my opinion. Although I'm the director, isn't the be all or end all, and the cast and the actors should know the characters much better than I should know the characters. So them creating them and kind of finding the root and blossoming it into, I don't know, some vegetable or something, is what you want, instead of being told what to do. It's very trial and error. Trying different things. We've gone on, so in the script there's an ongoing gag about one of the characters and a spoon, and just trial and error of watching them attempt to pick this spoon up. I won't give it away too much, because it is quite a funny moment, and it's a really, really, really talented actor, and she does so well with it. But the trial and error would be like, right, can you pick up that spoon again, and we'll watch it. And the amount of time it was long and lengthy, but just playing about with the idea and just experimenting with how many silly ways you can pick up a spoon. That's exactly what theatre is, really. But yes, it's been lovely being back in the room. So yeah, very exciting. So how did you get to this point of actually, I think you've kind of answered it really, but of directing for Camden Fringe?
Yeah, so Aurelia, who I've mentioned before, Aurelia Gage, she is a writer, director, actor extraordinaire. And she had sort of approached me at the beginning of the year, because she's like, I've got this script that I think might be something. And she was someone that, during lockdown would be like, would you help me do the self-tape? Would you like watch it, direct it, etc.? Which I really loved doing, because it was about the only sort of theatre-y outlet that I had, so that was really nice. So she just approached me with the script, and with like the story, so because our piece is Sisters of Charity, which is about sort of like the Magdalene laundries and the mother and baby homes in Ireland, set in the 60s. And it was something that I was aware of and like have, you know, done my own research into, just because I've, you know, when I found out about it many moons ago, I was like, what is, like, how can this be true? And actually what's been really crazy for me is that when I've been speaking to other people about this project, so many of them go, I don't know anything about that. And so that sort of like has added to my passion for the project, because when she suggested it, I just had this moment. I was like, oh, I cannot actually think of anything like theatrical that I've ever seen that like touches on this. I know there's like a couple of films, but you know, arguably they're not even particularly well known. And so yeah, it's that thing of feeling like it started as a good idea and now feeling like, oh, I feel like this is actually really important work.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You become so invested in the story, and you know, you realize that you're telling not verbatim, but you're telling stories of people that lived, which is lovely and fascinating, and a really, really worthwhile thing to do. And on the complete other spectrum is our show, which is just a parody of a very famous series. Obviously, it being called Joffrey, it's looking at a villain's perspective and how they see themselves as a hero. So it's very pantomime, it's very comedic, and just very wacky, which suits my director so very lovely and very nicely, because I'm a bit of a live wire. I love to be hands-on and work on character and just rinse a joke and milk a joke as much as we can, until the audience are sitting there thinking, they've made this joke so many times, why are we still laughing at it? You know, that's it's just fun. But in terms of getting involved with it, I had worked with Quintuple for the Quintuple Live project, where they did 4 shows, and I was directing one called The Daily Truth, and we did it on Zoom. Although I say I didn't enjoy Zoom, I enjoyed those rehearsals. They were a lot of fun, and the cast were very, very talented, and we'd always be like, it would be that sort of thing, if you mention an idea and you'd be like, it's a bit silly, isn't it? And then we do it, even if it is just a bit stupid. But that's the fun of it. Following from that, Becca and the team were looking for a new director for their show, which they had done in the past before in Norwich. And they were like, oh, we need a new director. And they contacted myself, and I jumped at the chance, which was lovely. It's been strange traveling, because I initially was in Canterbury and rehearsals were in London, and now I'm in Norfolk and the rehearsals are in London. But I just see it as very worthwhile and a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm just very, very committed to theatre, obviously, which everyone is in their own way, which is lovely. Also, is there a moment, a precise moment during the process of rehearsals that you're like, that, you know, something you'll treasure and remember?
Yeah. So this was only from a few weeks ago. We had a rehearsal, and it also came on the back of the night before I had finally been to the theatre for like the first time in probably like 9 months. Went to see 7 Methods of Killing Kylie Jenner. Would 10 out of 10 recommend if it's still on, because it's so good. But so I definitely came into that rehearsal feeling like, oh my gosh, yes, we're making theatre, this is great.
Yes.
And then one of the scenes that we rehearsed that day also was the scene that we had asked people to prepare as the audition scene, because it's mostly just one character speaking, but there is someone else in the room. And so doing this scene just kind of felt really odd, because I was like, we have watched so many, you know, sort of 20, 30 different interpretations. And like, I feel like I know this scene so well. And like my sort of style with like rehearsing, like when it's the first time of getting something up on its feet, I'm very much like, look, you're just going to do it once. I'm not going to say anything. We're not going to stop. I just want to see what you find naturally, because I find that so often there's some really beautiful moments that you could never have choreographed beforehand. And so this was the first time that I'd actually seen like Chloe who's playing Janine, like doing this scene in real life.
Right.
And also the first time I'd seen them doing it together as opposed to just always seeing it as a monologue. And I sat and I watched and I was just nearly in tears at the end, because the instincts that these two actors have got just feel so amazing, in the way that it just seems like we're really, like, you know, in line with what we're all thinking on the same page, which is not, it feels like such a luxury because it's not always the way.
Yeah, very true.
And simultaneously, just like seeing the way that this scene had gone from like this audition speech to like a fully fledged scene, and like so many things took on more meaning. And yeah, we had to have a little break after that, because I thought I was going to lose the plot, but just of being so happy about seeing this scene, but also being like, I'm finally here. I am finally back physically in a rehearsal room after so long, and like watching our industry just kind of getting decimated in so many ways. And it sounds so cheesy, but just feeling so happy and so grateful and so thankful, because I love theatre so much. And like, yeah.
Oh, 100%. It is as if like being allowed to go back home again, you know, that sort of feeling. It's lovely. Yes, that's a lovely moment. And for me, I would have to say it's just watching the actors get into character. It's just watching them blossom over time, and seeing them become such animated and ridiculous characters that are so far away from who they are, but at the same time, you'll leave the rehearsal room and then you'll still see glimpses of the character in them and be like, oh, that's hilarious, you know. There's one moment that it still it was weird and madness how it happened, in terms of we were just doing like a day in the life sort of exercise where I got them all to get into character and kind of individually act out how the day would go about. And I was sat there watching it all, and suddenly one of the actors just decides to get me involved in their scene. And I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. This has never happened before, but go on then. And then suddenly the whole room was involved. And it was lovely just to see the actors take initiative and to creatively just change something they'd be told to do and run with it and just see what happens. Because one small little spark then led to a whole scene that lasted about 10-15 minutes. And it was just weird and it was mad and silly. But I love that, just very spontaneous, but very character based. And again, a very lovely way to see it all just grow and transform into characters that you could believe existed, even though you've got really ridiculous characters in our show. So, which you know, which hopefully should be really fun to watch. They've done, like, the cast have done a really, really good job of it all. Any future plans following from Camden? Any future plans with the show, or do you have any other projects in the pipeline?
So we were actually just having a conversation about this on Thursday. I think we're very much kind of just going to see how it's received at Camden. I think I like to think that we've hit upon something special, in the way that we are shining a light on this period of history, and the fact that it does feel very niche. So like, I would like to see it have a life after this, but honestly at the moment I feel like I cannot plan anything a week in advance. So yeah, with that, who knows really.
Would you ever think about taking it to somewhere like Ireland or somewhere where it might mean a little bit more?
I think so, but I would also say that I'm very aware that of the people that are involved in the project, most people have Irish family, right? But like none of us are sort of like born and bred there. Yes, and I think, of course, in order to take that there, I think we would need to sort of, you know, sit down with, whether it's a theatre company or perhaps like a charity, a women's group or something, because I think I feel like they take one look at us and be like, nah. But I think that's, I mean, to me, that's really like important of having, like, because like Aurelia, the writer, has done like an enormous amount of research, and something that in our sort of like promotional material, we've been sort of shining a light on the charities that are sort of like raising awareness of these issues and these experiences that women had. But I think I would think it would be great actually if we could do something like that, but I think we would need more work.
Yes, more time and more research, and just more like networking the show. Yeah, lovely, very nice. In terms of Joffrey, there are some plans in the pipeline, but I've got a feeling I've got to stay a little hush. But I know that it will be going on to Edinburgh next year. That was a plan for this year, but because of restrictions and COVID and how that's affected certain events, we've decided to just do Camden this year and then take it to Edinburgh next year. So that's very fun, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, I'm very excited. I love the Fringes, and so it'll be lovely to see it happen. And so, lastly, but not least, in 5 words, just give some directing advice to whoever is listening.
Okay, I wrote this down earlier so that I was like, that's actually 5 words. My advice would be, don't be afraid to fail.
Lovely, very nice.
Just
very good words to follow. Yeah, fantastic. And mine would be, ignore the world, keep going. So so both very very inspiring, very positive, which is what we like to hear. Fantastic. Well, that has been Quintuple L's director interview, and we should hope to see you at the shows. See you then. Bye.